Darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. The stars wheeled overhead, and every day was as long as a life age of the earth. While I'm trying to be dramatic, the cat's gonna meow at me. Thanks a bunch. Why did we start in the middle? What are you doing? Begin at the beginning. Good morning. It is January 10th. Oh my gosh. I have been out of it, as tend to happen to me periodically. Ooh, now that's up a little loud. I won't be able to get near the computer with it blasting like that. Let me get that down so we don't get quite so much reverb. There we go. That's workable. Let's do it. My name is Tolinar, and I'm an overlord. Nice to meet you all. I have been slipped out of existence. I was in a state of fugue, is what I call it, although that's medically inaccurate. Fugue, as a medical term, represents something else. As a genius, though, I have my own unfortunate, incorrect definition. It's very easy for a person like me to become lost in thought, in particular. Perspective is difficult. Perhaps the most difficult thing for a genius. Now, activity is non-stop. Not as though I stopped existing. It's more like my existence becomes painfully pointed, easily obsessed with the smallest detail, ignoring the world spinning about me, as I instead fixate on something trivial. That's what is meant by fixate. So I term this fugue, where the mind becomes so pointed and directed, obsessed. This always happens, of course, as one seeks to change who they are and how they are. We first have to release the habits that we've already had. Habits are like muscles. After using them for a long time, they become clenched, locked in place. Now, of course, no muscle can clench all the time, but some can clench almost all the time, like the muscles in our neck. These can be thought of like root habits, like our eating habits. They're very, 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 very strong, almost locked in place. They periodically relax, but for the most part, they're powerful. This is similar to work habits. We have strong motive to maintain our work habits. Motives and satisfaction are behind the habit engine. Habit, you see, is our results feedback drive, while the conscious mind carefully plans and decides which behaviors we should take via deep logic systems designed to decode the universe around us. Habit drive is utterly pragmatic. There's only one thing that matters to habit. That's outcome. Set everything else aside, what was the result? Don't care about this, that, or the other thing. Don't care about the intentions. We don't care about what we plan to have happen. What was the result? If the result was good, then the behavior might be worth doing. And we measure results via the 7 motives. I think we've got the theme for the day. Let's roll with it and discuss habit. The 7 motives: the need to be healthy and comfortable, the need to be important, the need to form emotional connections with others, the need for aesthetics, beauty, and cleanliness, the need to understand the world, the need to have fun and not be bored, the need to be treated fairly. Actions and behaviors that improve these 7 motives are recorded by habit drives as successful. And habit only cares if actions are successful. Nothing else matters. The drives are not the same for all people, and they are very delicately balanced. So, if a child brushes his teeth and likes the way they look and receives lots of compliments on his smile, and finds himself the center of attention, then he may focus ever more on maintaining that smile. On the other hand, if he brushes his teeth, it hurts, it smells bad, and it makes his food taste bad, and he doesn't care very much about how he looks, and people go right on ignoring him like nothing has changed, his motives have entirely different feedback. And as a result, his habits will be different. This is why 2 people who have the same medical understanding of brushing their teeth can be very differently motivated about it. For one person, it becomes pièce de rigueur, ultimately important. And for someone else, it becomes an ideal that's impossible to keep. That's the nature of motives and habit. Habit doesn't care about how things look. You want to go out in that? It's dark and it's raining. Okay. Okay. Knock yourself out. Anyway, the sun will be up soon. Hopefully it'll be fine. I'm sure that cat will be okay. Anyways, from a philosophical standpoint, trying to top from the bottom, trying to re-engineer the mind doesn't work so good. Now you're outside, you're looking at all that rain, you don't want to be out there anymore, do you? You cat. You cat. Okay, she's gonna go play after all. Have fun, cat. Deciding how things should be on a conscious level does not undo the subconscious's decisions. You may want to be a beautiful and chivalrous person who's well loved in society, etc., 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 and have a collection of Beyblades and an emporium and yada, yada, yada. But if your motives don't pan out, if it doesn't keep you healthy, if it doesn't make you feel important, if it doesn't connect you with a community, if it doesn't show you something beautiful, you don't learn anything interesting. It doesn't make you feel like you're treated fairly. And ultimately, doing it will feel unfulfilling. And over time, you will become bored. Games, video games, are a really good example. Games should be fulfilling if they are to be useful. We become bored with video games because they're not meeting our needs. In particular, video games are primarily a learning experience, a practice, storytelling. Anything else we receive from them is artificial. Emotional connection with a story with fictional characters. The sense of importance or having done something meaningful, been a hero. The idea of eking out a virtual living doesn't fill one's belly. For these reasons, the habit drive will become impeded. Now, in the modern world, we have very, very strong information systems. Most people have powerful curiosity. In order to survive the modern complication, the average person is highly intellectual. And thanks to the computer age, there has been a meteoric rise of video games. That's fine. Games are good. They can provide intellectual interest and even flavors of other needs. But they can begin to be a problem when they fulfill the cardinal 7 better than reality. This leads to escapism, where people would prefer to live in the game than their own life. Ultimately, such behaviors are debilitating. Humans need other people, real human beings. And if we find that through video games, then that's where we get used to looking. And we don't speak to our neighbor. We go to Facebook every day and talk with our family, and that's wonderful. When we go to Facebook and just scroll and scroll and scroll or watch YouTubes or get very disconnected from the reality that we live in for the sake of discovering reality, you can see the two edges of the blade here. YouTube is a powerful tool that can teach you virtually anything you want to know, as is Wikipedia and all these other more reliable sources of information. Setting aside YouTube's flaws for an information source, though, the reliability of the data and such, YouTube is a great place to acquire art, knowledge, and inspiration. But most people won't become more important through YouTube. Most people won't succeed through YouTube. Many who try will fail. Very important. Even those who appear to succeed may only partly succeed. Life is full of gambling actions like this. Things that might pay out, but probably won't. It also has a number of things that appear good, but are not. Drugs and alcohol are on this list. Alcohol only seems to meet needs. In fact, it does not. Uh-oh. And the seam stitching on this one is coming loose. There we go. The towel will be fine. The towel's a towel. Just one strand. One of the, oh, here it is. I was going to say one of the clothing hangers is missing. I see it now. Humans are beautifully habit-driven. Very often we lament our habits. They're doing the very best they can for us. We always take the set of actions that have the best possible result. People get upset they don't have the habits of their neighbors. They don't seem to be as good at it. Usually this dissatisfaction comes from knowing that your cardinal motives are not being met. If you feel bored or unsatisfied with the way you live your life, that's your body saying, hey, this set of habits isn't working out. I'm not actually getting all of my cardinals fulfilled with this. And cardinal motives are an interesting thing. They're a bit like a tire with 7 segments. If any one segment goes flat, all of our attention switches fixing it. Boredom is very easily detectable as the last of the segments. People are like, well, it's not very important being bored. It's of low priority, as opposed to being in pain or hungry, which is a type 1 signal, or feeling like you're meaningless in life, which is a type 2 signal, or feeling like you're unloved and in need of support, which is a type 3 signal, or feeling like your life is ugly and horrible and disgusting, which is a type 4 signal, or feeling like you're mentally unfulfilled, feeling like you're an idiot, which is a type 5 signal, or feeling like you're mistreated, which is a type 7 signal. 6, I'm bored, is a passive, less important signal than these, but it often carries the most sway over our habit because that's its job. All these other things are about immediate decisions. These are all emergency signals for a fully deflated cardinal. Ow, I'm in pain is a type 1 signal that says our survival motive is way too low. We've got to do something right now. We are in danger of death. Something's got to change. And the stronger the signal is, the stronger the motive becomes. So a person who gets a hankering for a hamburger is like, we are receiving a mild to moderate signal for survival. Apparently, this body requires nourishment. We should eat soon. And then it combines with drive 4, and we're like, you know what would be really awesome? Hamburgers are beautiful. We should have a nice, beautiful hamburger. That covers all of the bases. Now, mind you, if a person who's thinking about a hamburger has a bowl of porridge thrust in front of him, just some plain oatmeal or something, there will be a decision. Should I eat this and satisfy drive 1 right now? Or should I wait a while and try to satisfy drive 4? Because I could totally do that instead. I could 100% not eat this porridge and save it for a much more elegant and artful hamburger later. Give myself a good artistic experience. And depending on level of artistic need, strength of the drive for aesthetic, and other motives, then a decision will be made. There is a possibility that the complex type 1 signals will be very specific and say, no, 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 I don't want oatmeal. The body requires protein. Meat must have meat. And this is a reclassification of the drive. It's one of the reasons why dieting can be so difficult on the body. The body sends the signals for hunger, right? The type 1 signal. But when those type 1 signals have special encoding, it can be very, very rough to look at food and think, I can eat this and it will provide enough nourishment that I won't be hungry if I do it. But at the same time, it's not actually going to fulfill this, that, and the other need that I have. If you do it enough times and the body realizes, okay, eating like this actually does fulfill my needs, then it's quiet. But the more you do it and the body's like, no, 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 that didn't work. We didn't receive enough salt, we didn't receive enough fat, we didn't receive enough protein. Just eating this isn't going to work. And because of the distribution needs between carbohydrates, sugars, fats and lipids, and proteins, the body's drive to do these things is differently weighted depending on what you eat. As long as you're changing what you eat all the time and your body receives a good balance of nutrients, then it will be a lot more flexible about these things. A person who has a good dietary structure may think to themselves, man, I really want a slice of pizza. But when a hamburger is put in front of them, they're willing to pivot. They're like, oh, this works too. Yes, let's eat this instead. Whereas a person who has been dining on vegetables for the last month might be thinking, I really need some carbs. And then when a bowl of riced cauliflower is put in front of them, they think, I don't think this is gonna work. I think this doesn't have enough protein and carbs. What I really need is rocket fuel. I want fried chicken. The body needs drive the push. Now, of course, when you haven't had an experience recently, there's an artistic drive to enjoy that experience again. It's a lot like watching a TV show that you liked watching, something that you thought was beautiful. Well, constant exposure isn't necessary. That's not how art works. Cleanliness and art stand shoulder to shoulder. With cleanliness, it's all the time. We all want to feel clean. We don't have to feel clean 100% of the time, but we need to feel clean regularly for our health and sanity. So we can get dirty and muddy for a little while, but then once that's done, once we're done playing in the mud, it's time to clean up. With the less strong impulses, the heart and mind want to, that didn't work. It didn't start. Right? There. That time it started. With the less powerful impulses, aesthetic, occasional exposure is good enough. Some of it is wanting to remember things that are partially forgotten. The concept of the incomplete pattern, where you remember part of how something goes, but not the whole thing, and you want reinforcement. Part of it is wanting to enjoy an aesthetic. That you, yes, here's Cat right in the middle of everything. Why are you here? What do you want? What did you want from me? Where did you want from me? Why did you dump for me? What did you do? I don't want to do it because you're just a screwy and closing the window. There you go. Okay. Got these mason jars nice and clean. Good, good. The topic is pretty complicated. Anyways, that's the basics behind aesthetic drive and why we want to rewatch TV shows. No, cat, don't go out. You're hopping in and out like crazy. I don't need that shit. This is not your playground. That window is not supposed to just hang open. We got better things to do. We got better stuff. Come on, cat. Don't stare at the outside world with listful eyes. I don't want to look at it. Feel bad, bad, bad. Okay. Anyway. When you're eating food, you sometimes get the drive to experience something you experienced once. One, because you remember it had exactly the positive reactions that you want to re-experience, the right balance of carbs, fats, and vegetables, etc. Two, you want to have reinforcement of the positive experience elements that you had back then. For some people, it can become very latched on eating specific foods because of secondary things that happened. For example, emotional connection. People could remember having good conversations when doing a specific food, resulting in a stronger positive impression than the food otherwise would have left. The music being played, the lighting conditions, all substantially affect the opinion of the final outcome, whether it's intentional or not. But these are all very weak compared to nutrient balancing. The body knows what it requires, and it knows this because of the habit engine. When it goes without for too long, it receives signals. We're deficient in iron. We don't have enough carbohydrates for fuel. We're tired. We're listless. Body is running out of gas quickly. We haven't received enough protein. The muscles are having difficulty repairing in the night. We don't sleep as well, and we are sore. Our body has not received enough micronutrients. We don't have the vitamins and minerals to support the primary system. We're starting to get a little bit creaky. The joints feel sore and our body feels off center, out of balance. We haven't consumed enough fat and salt recently. Our energy exchange systems are ruined and our shields are down. We feel dry and creaky and stiff, and our hair has lost its finish. And we tire quickly. We haven't consumed enough water. And so we feel parched and unpleasant. And dragging. That sensation that your battery is empty, the main driving force behind it is usually insufficient water. Your body uses water for everything. And if it runs out, if there's not enough, it will ration carefully. This rationing process allows the body to continue running in a low water situation, but is ultimately very taxing. Whereas, if you supply enough water, your body is able to act relatively efficiently. You can go outside if you want, cat. Yes, there you go. You're just gonna sit at the window and look out, aren't you? Fine. I'll tolerate it for a couple more days. I don't got too much choice in the matter, do I? Like, it's warm in here, Dad, but I want to look outside. Okay, fine. Whatever, you cat. You cat. He wants to keep his options open. He wants to go goofing. You're gonna slide your butt right into that couch. All right. Pleasantly warm in here. Where are you squudging to, kitty? Brow. Boop, boop, boop. There. Okay. Cat's butting the cushion down. Whatever. Dining habits are a matter of all sorts of complex judgment systems. And food in particular is a great example of how habit forms opinion. Now, opinion is driven by habit. A person's opinions on whether something is good or bad primarily comes from experience. Impressions and opinions are different. Impression is how somebody feels about something beyond their personal experience. When you have a favorable impression of something, you suspect, based on all the information you've gathered, that it could be a good experience. You form an opinion after you've had that experience, and you reach a verdict. Ooh, I bet that would taste good. It's quite nice. Or, that does not smell good at all. I think I would not like that in the slightest. Versus, oh, it's actually very pleasant once you get into it. The smell's just a little off-putting, but the flavor makes up for it. Or, I don't know what to make of this. I am having difficulty forming an opinion. Oh God, it's the worst thing ever and I hate it. If you have a bad experience as a child with food, then that bad experience will resonate for a long time through your behavior. Food, in particular, has a tendency to form aversions. This is a safety mechanism of the body to keep us from getting poisoned. If we have a seriously negative reaction to food, even if it's unrelated, the body will form an aversion, a warning. Now, some aversions are based on specific taste flags. Things that are extremely sour are considered dangerous to a young mind. Things that are bitter are also considered dangerous to most minds. So when you are young, consuming things that are sour and bitter can be off-putting. The body believes it may be poison. It doesn't want to participate. However, as you get older, the taste buds that sense sour and bitter get weaker and become conditioned. We get used to flavors. Now, if you don't eat bitter things, then you don't get used to them nearly as quickly. But the body's ability to sense bitter and sour have exactly these responses because that's what keeps us safe and healthy. Responding to sour, not when it's weak, but when it is strong, is the body netting out the acids it needs and avoiding the ones that are dangerous. And responding to bitter by avoiding it is the body trying to escape heavy chemicals that could be toxic. The body can also sense micronutrients that could be useful. In particular, we have become conditioned to recognize the scent of proteins and lipids that have been seared in heat. Proteins and lipids, when exposed to heat, exude certain chemicals. And over eons of cooking on fire, we have learned to recognize these scents as signals of excellent micronutrients. The scent of cooked meat resonates through most living creatures as extremely edible. The scent is the correct tone to indicate this is something that should be extremely nutritious. We can sense the protein and the carbohydrates and the fats, lipids. Our body's like, oh, we know this shape. What it is, the body is receiving extremely small airborne particles of proteins and lipids. So the body's like, this smells like fat, or that smells like protein. And it instantly inspires hunger. The body realizes there's an opportunity to consume the necessary micronutrients and macronutrients. It's like, we want that right there, that. And genetic long-term change has only reinforced this instant desire. That's why the Maillard reaction is so popular, why people brown their meat. The scents are appetizing because it smells like nutrients, and our body is well engineered. Whereas if we smell something that is unfamiliar, the body's immediate reaction is, I don't know if I want to eat that because it doesn't smell right. When we smell chemicals which are produced by bacteria, our body immediately thinks, hang on, I don't like the way this smells. I'm not sure this is safe to eat. That's right, you're not smelling bacteria. That scent is caused by chemicals on the bacteria. Chemicals that your body recognizes as potentially dangerous. And so the knee-jerk reaction is, oh no. This isn't something that I should put in my mouth. Cooking it relieves that scent, but it doesn't remove the chemicals. The warning was correct. Or for example, heavy polycarbonate chain. These two. The body smells as like, ugh, what is that plasticky scent? I don't think I want to eat this. Your body is sensing a chemical that would be dangerous. Like, that's not going to process correctly. We shouldn't eat it. If we do, it'll get stuck in our system and we'll have to work it back out again through toxin removal, which the body is able to remove toxins in small amounts through various implements. It always has to. You can't consume 100% pure nutrients correctly. Always going to be little splinters of bone, unwanted stuff. This, that, and the other little tiny component can't be digested. And even looking at piles of solid nutrients, the process of removing those nutrients will introduce things that can't be consumed. And this is why we have the stool system. Urine, in particular, removes acids that the body produces that are damaging and waste chemicals. Just flushes them out. Like, well, that's not useful right now, that's urea. So out it goes. But stool is the removal of solid waste components that the body was unable to process. The more thoroughly the body is able to process food, the more successful the digestion drive is, then the more these clumps are removed, the more the body is able to get rid of these things. In other words, the more efficient your stomach is, the less you'll need to poop. Isn't that something? And when you do poop, the nature of the poop is primarily governed by what it is that you couldn't eat but ended up digesting anyways. Fiber is a crucial nutrient to the body, basically because it's like swallowing a toilet brush. The body's got to have it because it scrubs out the intestines. The particles, which cannot be digested, pass through the body and remove other particles that are hanging out but really shouldn't be there. If you don't get enough fiber, then you end up with large, heavy clumps of material that can't be removed. Ultimately, these clumps can form blockages, and you end up with constipation. This is a kind of heavy topic. What were we talking about again? Habits? Well, dietary habits count. Anyways, if you do this too often, your body will start sending you signals. Generally speaking, we do what's successful. The modern world is full of food that is nutritious and effective, even if it is full of dangerous other things. Processed foods in particular supply plenty of positive signals letting you know that you ate something that indeed had the macronutrients and micronutrients you needed, but may have contained a bunch of other smaller things that your body didn't need. A bag of Cheetos corn chips contains fats, salts, and carbohydrates, all the fuel that you're looking for, and a number of other things that are interesting experiences. But it also contains a bunch of processed chemicals and colors that aren't necessarily helpful to the body and can accumulate over time. If the body forms a habit of consuming these things, then it may get very stuck on receiving things that it doesn't necessarily have a use for. That's why in the Disney film, the Pixar film Soul, the statement, "Stay away from those processed foods," I consider to be one of the ultimate secret truths of the universe. You do want to stay away from processed foods because they'll kill you early. He's not specific about the processed foods, though. It can be said this much: unprocessed foods are generally very effective for digestion. Food that has been minimally processed tends to be very healthy to consume, if less interesting and exciting. The more you process a food, the more you introduce things that are less helpful to the cycle. There we go. All right. That said, there's an art to learning food processing. By learning the right way to process foods, you can make your own cooking life easier and convenient. Fast and efficient is good aesthetics. The body naturally understands that something that is quick and easy is of higher quality than something that is long and drawn out, especially if every other aspect of the result is the same. You're forced to eat the same cookie. One cookie takes 10 seconds to make and the other takes 2 hours. Well, why would you spend the extra time? Efficiency is a form of quality. I think I need to run my coats today. You're going to sit on that towel. Okay. Enjoy your towel. I don't protest. You're not going to muck that towel up too bad. I need to refill my water sources. The subconscious mind, not the conscious mind, governs habit. The conscious mind, the logic side of things, very clearly decides the best possible procedure for doing things. There's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. The logic side, the conscious mind's job, is to figure out the right way to do things. It is the job of the subconscious to then decide what to do. And neither side is weaker than the other, meaning that as the conscious mind gets stronger, so does the unconscious mind. But they gain strength in different ways and formats. The conscious mind builds extremely complex pattern networks, where A is to B via equality. The more pattern networks the mind has, and the higher the neuroplasticity, or the ability to apply patterns in creative and interesting ways, the faster and easier it is to solve problems. And the more successful the mind is in coming up with solutions. Meanwhile, the habit drive works a little differently. It is 8 a.m., everybody. Let me write in my journal a moment. Very good then. I believe I was refilling water. So, where the information gained in conscious thinking, the patterns that we learn, strengthens the pattern selection drive, the conscious mind. The unconscious mind is strengthened by something else. Its job is to evaluate between the 7 motives. And it has a lot to think about. First is tolerance. Humans are always different. We have different levels of tolerance for things. Sometimes you really want an emotional connection. That's something that's hard to individually control, because it always involves another person. We have no choice but to accept our situation until we can find a way to change it. We can't go hug the person we love in the morning if she's not in the house. That can be a hard feeling. But rather than spend all day frustrated about it, the habit engine says, "We have been seeing this problem for years now. It is high time we moved on and accepted this as the norm." When a person suffers from chronic pain, the body is like, all right, yes, this hurts, but we have to just keep going. We can't spend all day thinking about this. We have other needs to meet. So the more frequently and recurringly the body receives signals of problems, the more likely the habit engine is going to say, no, you see, we can't do anything about this. So what we're going to do is upgrade our long-term drive. So this drive is now more important to us. And in the short term, we're going to nullify this need and focus on other things. This is how people's drives end up lopsiding. How people end up having deficient lives. They understand that something is important, but they feel they have no means to change it. So they just accept it. That acceptance doesn't remove the motive. People who live lonely lives, who live without emotional connections to others, despite having neighbors that they could step outside their door and say, hello, how are you, good morning. It's because they believe down deep inside they're incapable of having emotional connection. The need has not been met for a long time. Now, there are specific versions of this. And again, a lot of this comes down to the expert system that is the habit drive. The habit drive in particular knows, up until around the age of 30, 35, that hell's bells, the clock is ticking. So the emotional need to fuck is not going to just go away. It will go away when biology says, okay, time's up. We're not as strong as we used to be. Our prime is past. During that central point where virility and fertility is at its peak, the body's like, okay, this is it. It's go time. Now, 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 now. But then when that passes, the body's like, oh, okay, we had a good run of it. We may have succeeded. We may have failed. Either way, we have to play it as it lies. Oh, it's the curtains. The washer is causing vibration. It was a weird noise. We have to play it as it lies. This is our current situation. And so it's willing to let that slack off. This is why for young people, the need to have partnership is so much stronger than when you get older. It doesn't go away. It never goes away. So people can end up having very lopsided drive systems where the body knows it needs something, but believes it cannot fulfill that need. So it goes on living with an unfulfilled need. And this impacts behavior. And ultimately happiness, until it finds something that starts fulfilling that need. A person's sense of happiness can have a major upward surge when a need that has not been fulfilled for a long time is suddenly met. When a person who believes, I'll never be important in life because I'm just a nobody, suddenly is doing something meaningful, they can feel very fulfilled and go for months or even years. When a person who believes that emotional connection is impossible forms a connection with someone, it can create a euphoria that can ring for years. For me, it was 3, right up until the very end. And now I'm back where I was. But I am doing something sneaky because I'm an old dog at this. We humans are capable of getting what we want even when we can't get what we want. This is needs management. We very often use placebo effect in the short term. We do things that provide positive effects to lots of our motives, even though it's not fulfilling our worst needs. We all need all 7. We all have to be treated fairly. We all need to know that we are meaningful in this world. We all need love. It goes on. But some of us can make do with less comfort in their lives. Not because our body craves less comfort. No. There is some level of exact personal balance, which is intrinsic. People are not exactly the same, but a lot of it is ingrained and learned. So, a lot of that, oh, I don't need emotional connection, is because it's what the body is used to. Usually, we get this way because we have found a secondary source, which is at least somewhat functional. We have other ways of getting that need met. Sometimes it's animals. Sometimes it's elder family members. All of us long for companionship. But when we don't find exactly what we need, we sometimes settle for second best. It's the same thing with dietary restrictions. We all have specific needs, but if we can't meet our needs exactly, we may end up settling for second best. And that's okay. We may decide the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to adapt. Over time, these placebo effects can be detrimental as well. Oh, there's someone in chat. Hello there, hi. Clonoa, I played that a little while. That was way back. Let me check the docs, see how many actual... I don't know, that's not gonna help. I'll log on to Twitch on my phone, see if there's actually somebody there today. I don't imagine I have an audience, but if you're there, welcome. Here I am. What are you doing? Oh no. Hang on. Just a moment. Looks like my phone's credentials are weak. I'll have to... Right. Get logged in. Okay. Hello. Not a chance. Says, hey, you're streaming, aren't you? You bet I am. Although I don't know why I'm flagged as streaming.hack infection. It should say sleeping. Oh, I do have a viewer. Okay, there you go. Now, let's go to the tools. Oh, the custom dock is not listed here. Let me see if I can find my settings. I'll deal with it later. That's a later thing. Right now I'm doing stuff. The placebo effect means that we may want emotional connection, but if what we do brings us creativity and cleanliness and discovery and fills our need for food and fairness, we tolerate the behavior. We end up doing things that might help, even if they actually don't. You're not going outside. I'm closing that window. It's cold. Dumb cat. Came in and then immediately sacked out. That's good, Zonk. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, you hairball. Okay. That's the placebo effect. We do actions because we suspect that they will help us. If they don't, then, well, we got decepted. How's that supposed to go? Oh, my foot's stuck. There we go. I've gone through something especially difficult over the last month. One of my habits, my income source, has fallen apart. So the first step is unclenching. I don't mean to do the exact same thing to make a living. So I have to wait for my habit network to completely relax. Getting up at the same time every single morning, following the same procedure. Highly effective and successful habit system. Produced money and leverage for me. Made me feel important, allowed me to engage with my community. It was a very effective pattern. And the habit system recognized this and reinforced it like crazy. Now that this system has fallen apart, I need to let it fall apart completely. I need to allow it to pass out of my behavioral systems. Only once it is completely removed will I be able to build a new pattern based on something else. Once the old system is completely out, then I can come up with a new system that will be more effective and more efficient. How are we doing? We're cooking right along this morning. Let me see. Let's check my loops. First, we'll go to Discord. Not seeing anything seriously. Okay. No major news here. Now let's go to Sayen, see what's cooking here. Who's got some updates? Who's got news? Sister Virodar. Yeah. Go ahead and funk around here a little bit. Yeah. Not a whole lot going on. There'll be a maintenance day. Let's check the streaming schedule on Crunchyroll today. Shall we? Looks like Welcome to Japan, Mrs. Elf will be available. And Pharmasia is also having its world premiere today. We can check that out. Did you guys see Dr. Stone, episode 1 yesterday? Oh my God, it was good. And it was real good. Who would have seen a casino coming? Wow. We're entering an arc that I never really read in the manga, so all of this is mystery territory to me. And I'm hungry for it. I can't wait to see. Anyways. Yeah. We can see what's going on Twitter for a moment, I guess. I have 2 notifications. I fire a shrug at you, sir. All right. The cat is being a creature of leisure, of course, as expected. While I gather up all the dishes and clothes in the house, get them wrangled around. course, what I'm really looking forward to, what is the simulcast time for the Apothecary Diaries? When is the air date? It's in an hour. 9:15 a.m. We'll be tuning in an hour's time. We'll cut our stream short specifically to watch the Apothecary Diaries. Because I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, I might have got a little excited. I have some glass to take out. These appear to be good. Cat slumbering. I've been putting together the building blocks for a project. I think it's high time I did some more surface organization here. Developing new habits is all about finding new procedures via the logic drive that work. You develop a new system of behavior, be careful thinking and decision making, and then when it's all said and done, the habit drive says, oh, look at that. We had our needs met. Our emotional growth is excellent. We had a fine burst of self-confidence or similar component growth. This is great. We should do this more often. We should engage in this behavior. This one panned out, so let's make a habit of it. And the habit drives two halves. Do different things. The first part decides whether behaviors are worth doing or not, memorizing the ones that are worth doing, and automating them. The automation system is one of the neatest things that the habit drive does. Once something is done repetitively, the body learns how to do it without giving it any focus. Normally, to do something new requires the body's attention. It has to stop and think, okay, now how do we get this right? I need to keep my balance. This component's not quite wiggling like that. I've got to move this to the side a little bit. And I have to hit that harder. Is this even doing anything? Okay, I got it to go. This kind of thinking is the conscious problem-solving aspect of the logic drive, where it's learning how to do a new behavior. Then once it's got it learned, it's like, okay, we do this, push this up like so, this squishes to the side a little bit, we're there. The habit system does that automatically. Like, okay, we know our procedure. It's right here. The manual says so, black and white. Zoop, 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 squish to the side, we're there. Easy. Everything we do in life is controlled by the habit drive. To stop acting through habit would result in a massive systems breakdown. Let me describe how massive that system's breakdown would be. You are breathing by habit. Surprise! And if you stop and think about it, suddenly your breath becomes ragged. You can breathe manually, but it's not especially comfortable. The unconscious, sorry cat, did I wake you up with that? The unconscious body's already got good rhythms for breathing, all psyched out. Depending on levels of activity, what we're doing, if you start doing something that requires an alternate breath pattern, the body will be like, hey, we need a new breathing pattern, work this out, please. And you'll feel strained and your attention will be drawn to your breathing. Your attention, the conscious, logical part of the mind, your focus is drawn to the things that aren't working. The habit system takes care of everything else. Like, I got this, go do other things. So, breathing, swallowing, sneezing, lots of these things. Walking is habit. Bending and stooping to pick up objects is habit. Keeping your balance and maneuvering around things is habit. And the body is regulated by thousands of automatic processes. The processes work, the body knows how to do it. It does not require any further input from you. It is managed. So your conscious mind, your attention, goes to the things that need improvement. Right, today on the docket, we are going to figure out how to defeat that boss on stage 3. That's where our attention is put. Meanwhile, the habit drive is going to take care of breathing, yada, 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 yada. The habit drive, the unconscious part of the mind, also decides where this attention goes. Now, there are complications. The cat knocked this dice around. I gotta put it backward. Okay. Get that back up there. Found you. Okay. As I was saying, the habit engine deals with these kinds of complications. It also decides which behaviors are more important in the moment. Now, you can logically concentrate and think about things carefully and build out a bureaucracy and very carefully decide, okay, what I actually need to do is A, B, C, D, E, because this is what the yada yada do, and the people say I'm not doing it, so I gotta change my way of living. I'm gonna reverb my entire point of view. But your habit drive will say, You may think it's a really good idea to start trying to do all this stuff, but I know that stuff you're doing does not fulfill my needs. What you're doing is highly suspect. And the more the habit drive is convinced that's not going to help, the more it's like, we're not going to waste too much time on this attempt. The logic drive, the conscious, the attention, you're welcome to give it a shot. You can try anything you can imagine. But when it doesn't pan out, when the results aren't there, we're dropping it like a potato. I have low expectations on that. The thing is, the habit drive can't do what the conscious mind does. It's not capable. The habit drive doesn't have that creativity, that power. The conscious mind is capable of understanding new and complicated systems. Conscious mind is able to create new habits. If the unconscious mind feels dirty, nasty, it cannot operate a shower, doesn't know what it's doing, it can't grasp the mechanisms, but we have another tool for that, the conscious mind. Unconscious is like, oh man, I feel nasty. Conscious, you're up. Get us into a shower now. And then the conscious mind is, all right, here I am at the national park and I don't understand how this works. I have a coin, there's a coin slot. I think I know how to operate this part. Now, how is this supposed to work? I guess you crank this handle. There's a ticking sound. It reminds me of an egg timer. Maybe I have a limited amount of time to take a show that water's cold. In this way, the conscious mind solves the puzzle for the unconscious mind. It uses what it already knows, patterns it has, and rapidly builds new ones to resolve an unknown situation. But the unconscious mind can use everything the conscious mind does. It's constantly looking and watching, saying, okay, that part worked, that part didn't work, that part worked. And as it goes and irons through it, it develops unconscious habits. It's capable of accessing all the patterns that are discovered. And so, if through conscious behavior, the conscious mind comes across a habit that it seems especially effective, the habit drive will latch onto it and be like, that works, we're going to use that from now on. This is good. We're going to do this. That's why if you consciously sneeze in a specific way over a long enough period of time, it becomes the way you automatically sneeze. If you force yourself to laugh in a specific way for long enough, then the unconscious mind will probably latch onto that behavior and you'll laugh like that most of the time until it fails to be a successful expression, in which case you'll double back to your default laugh and surprise the hell out of everyone. In this sort of way, we are capable of building highly complex systems, and the habit drive can access all of them. The habit drive is so strong that we can jump off a cliff in Minecraft and deploy a bucket of water at exactly the last second to save ourselves from dying from fall damage by habit. This extremely complex dance happens in an instant without any conscious attention because we've simply done it enough. The habit drive has access and says, okay, as it turns out, falling damage in this video game Minecraft is highly demoralizing. It wastes our time. We are trying to achieve something special here. We have goals to accomplish in this game because it's fun and an interesting experience. We have things to learn and things to do. And it will impress other people and be important if we can get this right. So we've got the habit. We know what to do. It's very simple. It's just a matter of getting the timing straight. And as long as I get it right, there won't be an issue. And so you MLG that bucket. And you don't even need to think about it. It just happens. We're all capable of doing this in different ways and respects, different aspects. A full reset, removing all of these, would be impossible. But if a habit no longer has a need, then over time it relaxes. The habit drive is not stupid. As a matter of fact, it is every bit as powerful as the conscious mind, even though it is unconscious. The habit drive is perfectly capable of seeing something and think, oh no, this is pointless now. We can log into Minecraft, but we just lost our main world due to a save bug. So we'd have to start from zero. It's a hell of a climb. I'm not sure that's worth it. Or we could drive into town. We don't have a job right now. We had one, but now we don't, so there's no point in getting up this early. Disable this habit. I'd love to get up and have a bowl of cereal. There's no milk, so disable this habit. We need to go shopping. Let's go to this grocery store here because it's Wednesday, I'll get a discount. We're going to go ahead and do that. Run this habit. Habits run as deep as scratching a cat's neck while you're laying in bed, and as shallow as the way you yawn. The conscious mind is said to use only a fraction of the mind's power. Don't think for a moment the rest of the mind is just idle, doing nothing. Most of the brain's processing power is going towards the other parts. There is a function below even the unconscious mind. This is the autonomy system. Nobody tells the red blood cells how to work. The nerve network does not receive conscious instructions, it simply operates. There are a lot of parts of the body that process via chemical or metabological, nice word, splendiferous, ouch. There are a lot of psychological and physiological controls that are more airbrushed and gentle than simply, there's stuff. Make choice. The pancreas exudes specific chemicals. All these different organs do their thing. They all work together in concert. It all happens under the surface, below the conscious mind. The conscious and the unconscious start to come into the picture when looking at the big control box that decides what we do. From processing and storing memories, managing one's emotions, all these different parts that are interconnected. All these different parts have different value systems. And while the conscious and unconscious are technically connected, they are like the front and back of a coin. They access the same thing, but from different sides. The conscious mind uses the computer of reality to create new habits, solve problems, and strengthen itself. The navigation of day-to-day life is achieved through the conscious, but it is only half the coin. The unconscious mind is player 2. Player 2 does not sit at the controls. Player 2 has the second controller plugged in. And while player 1 may think, oh, the second controller doesn't do anything, I'm just appeasing my child cousin. Actually, the second controller is very important. Whenever things happen automatically, that's player 2. Whenever we behave by habit, that's player 2. When we wake up in the morning and decide on the first thing we're going to do, it's almost always player 2. The moment-to-moment decision of how to spend the next moment is almost always player 2. Basically, anytime player 1 is not providing a direct input, player 2's controller is working. Imagine that you are playing Mario, and you're running Mario along, then you see a pit coming, so you stop. Player 2 now has control. If player 2 was doing a bad job, he could run you straight into the pit, straight forward. That's not successful. Player 2 is player 1's teammate. Player 2 absolutely wants to see player 1 succeed. And since both controllers technically control the body, both habit and conscious desire both have access to the frame, sometimes they get into fights. Anytime player 1 and player 2 disagree, player 1 has precedence, with a very, very small handful of exceptions. There are override moments. Now, when conscious mind and unconscious disagree, you get conflicting behavior. The override system works a bit like this. Let's say the player is B sprinting along, and player 2 notices a pit ahead. Well, that's got to be bad. But player 1 has jumped this pit a million times. As it so happens, player 1 is currently thinking about some pipes up ahead, trying to remember which one has the warp in it. Player 2 will now press the jump button the same time the jump button is always pressed, to loft right over the pit without trying. Player 2 uses his controller to force Mario to jump. He can't make Mario stop or slow down. Mario is currently running full tilt because that's what player 1 is doing. What he can do is add an extra input to make sure things work out. Mario will jump now and press that button. In fact, when you play stage 1 enough, player 1 can basically just sit there and be like, all right, let's do stage 1. And player 2 will use their controller and steer through the stage. Okay, we charge forward at full tilt, jump here to kill that, then jump here to get that block. We aim for the left side, so the mushroom goes to the right, bounces off the pipe, grab it, we pause for a moment, getting bigger. Now we jump, and if this sounds familiar to you, it's because you have this pattern also. It's the same thing with all our patterns. We build them out, and then our habit drive has the controls. Now, because it's 1 and 2 together, there are times when the habit drive rests. These are important. We cannot always be on. There's a reason why the human body only works for 8 hours a day. When we sleep, we alternate between phases of no thought, deep sleep, and coalescence, REM sleep. During REM sleep, the unconscious mind is hard at work, but it takes breaks. When we hit deep sleep, the unconscious mind is resting too. Sleep time is rest time for the whole brain, not just the conscious mind. So, when the body stops to rest, the unconscious is pulling into the gas station saying, okay, first off, let's decompile this, get this organized. I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on this, then I'm going to sack out. We're going to take it easy too. Not all things are created equal when it comes to the habit drive. Some things require very little effort. In the same way that a math problem, like 5 plus 12, isn't going to take longer than a moment to think about, and the conscious drive will make short work of it. Coughing slightly to clear a little goop in the throat, or taking another breath, are things that don't require too much strength from the habit drive. In a moment where you're hungry and a little tired and stressed out because your coworker is harassing you and feeling messy, the habit drive will be pulled in 4 directions at once and forced to make some very difficult decisions because the conscious is busy doing something else. It's busy trying to put together this thing that fell apart in your hands, and it needs to focus on what it's doing. But the subconscious is scrambling, trying to decide, 1, is fixing this really that important? 2, what can I do to get rid of this smell? 3, how do I get this asshole off me? 4, what do I even want to eat? What are my options? 5, what is that shoulder pain? Is there any way we can resolve that? It prioritizes in categories and stacks all these things against one another. And then finally decides on an action and begins churning the process. But there are times it's got to rest also. Americans watch a lot of TV nowadays. YouTube's, anime. There were times when we would just sit and stare into nowhere, just relaxing. This dead space has always been a part of us. Americans need to space out because humans need to space out. This is the subconscious mind resting. It adopts a very, very, very simple pattern and flops. It's like, okay, job's done. Now I'm gonna chill. So the conscious mind absorbs itself in something. We imagine something interesting. Or we watch a television show and allow our attention to be pulled somewhere unimportant. Or we play a video game, read a story. There's a million different ways where our conscious mind is pulled somewhere important. So our habit drive has nearly nothing to do. It doesn't have to autopilot the human body. If we constantly hammer the autopilot, making it do stuff 24/7, it becomes exhausted. By the end of the day, we flop. We're a heap somewhere, doing nothing. Understanding that conscious strain is one thing, physical strain is one thing, and chemical strain is something, and emotional strain is something. But also, automata strain is something. That the habit drive incurs weight just as much as everything else. And when it struggles to make decisions because there are too many motives to be fulfilled, when it is forced to resolve a habit that is complicated and may require takeover at any moment, when it is churning and churning and churning and churning and churning, maintaining perfect function for hours on end, it introduces strain to the unconscious mind. You ever just go home and flop and black out? That is a good indicator that your unconscious is tired. When you have a hard conscious day because you learned a whole bunch, what happens is when you fall down at night, your mind becomes a whirl of thoughts and activities. You start processing everything you learned. When you think about complex things, have a big day at school, you're learning. You go home, your mind now has to unscramble all that. Now it's your unconscious mind's turn to get to work. It has to decode this, resulting in long, complex dream sequences, listless, fitful sleep because it's busy. It can be difficult falling asleep at night. But when you run by habit for hours on end, pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping, then when you finally get back, it's black space. Your body shuts down. You can feel what it's like to rest your habit drive by meditating. Sit still. Allow your mind to clear. Try hard to do nothing. Don't force yourself to do anything. After a moment, calmness will come over you. And you will start feeling tugs. You will want to do things. Your habit drive will have put its bags down, stopped, wrung out its arms, stretched, and then got back to it. is now calmly and selectively deciding what should be done next. What comes next? What comes next? The conscious mind can help with the evaluation at this point. By consciously focusing, what should I do next? The unconscious mind no longer has to make the decision, and it gets a break. Presence of mind, the New Age concept of being aware in the moment of what you are doing, allows your unconscious mind, which is normally the one making all these decisions, to take a break. There's a reason why it feels so good to have Zen, to be present in the moment, to be thinking about what you're doing. And that is, you've taken the load off your unconscious mind, which normally has to do this shit. It's getting its chance to take a break by focusing on what you're doing, by looking and thinking carefully about every little action you take. Your unconscious mind finally gets to put its burden down. You don't have to do this for long. A half hour, even 15 minutes of this can completely refresh the average unconscious mind, because we force the unconscious mind in the modern world to be an extremely heavy lifter. Most people seriously overtax their unconscious. This is why TV vegging is so popular, because we really strain our unconscious. We push ourselves so hard. We really grind ourselves. In 8, we talked about the unconscious burden. Between deciding which habits to act on and controlling the minor behaviors of the body, player 2 does nothing but work. We may think they're not contributing to the game because anytime we have control, player 2 is locked out. But I guarantee you, the unconscious mind plays almost as much, if not more, than the conscious one. Their fingers are sore. That's how much they play. So don't think that just because the conscious mind can take the controls away, that the unconscious mind doesn't do anything. Couldn't be further from the truth. The unconscious mind is perfectly content to allow the conscious mind to play as much as it wants. Go ahead, you're Mario. Move, jump, get on that block, bounce over there, sprint, I don't care. You can tell me as much as you need to tell me that I don't have the controls. Because at some point, you've got to put the controls down. And trust me, I am putting way more input into this than you think I am. That's the nature of the unconscious mind. Constantly working, constantly driving and grinding, seeking to improve your life for both of you, because you're the same person. Everybody's on the same team here. This is no sibling rivalry. Player 2 isn't actually your cousin that's younger than you and doesn't know how to play Mario. No, player 2 is watching every little tiny thing that you do. And when you discover a pro gamer move, player 2 memorizes it. Like, so that's how you do that. Don't worry about getting it right. I'll make sure it's right. Oh, we didn't quite get it. Hey, player 1, can I get a little more attention? We got to figure out how to get this perfect. Okay, now I think I got it. All right, you go ahead. I'll see if I can get it next time. This teamwork between conscious and unconscious is relentless throughout our lives. And yet, when we intend to do one thing and act differently, we become frustrated with ourselves. We don't understand what happened. That's player 2 looking out for player 1. Like, yeah, you may think that what you want to do is mountain bike every single day, 5 days in a row. But I'll tell you what I'm receiving. 1, we are way over our carb consumption. Our body is running through calories far too fast. 2, we haven't had any decent socialization in like 4 days. We have to talk to somebody, please, now. And 3, we haven't learned anything either. Let's face it, aren't you curious about stuff? If we don't develop new patterns, we're not going to get out of this rut. I'm sure the endorphins feel fantastic, but honestly, I don't think this balance works for us. Why don't you step away from the bike, which, by the way, is really, really tiring for me, and sit down on the couch? I hear there's a new episode of the Apothecary Diaries coming out, and you would love to see that. You sit down and watch it. I'll catch a break and think about what we should have for lunch in the meantime. And then an hour later, your unconscious mind is like, okay, I'm pretty well rested. I've decided on a frozen dinner because that will be very convenient for us and carry the least expense in time and effort. Let's just go do that. And yeah, the controls are ready anytime you want to take them. Standing by, ready player 1. You may have thought you wanted to go mountain biking, but your body and your balance say no. No, no, what you want to do is watch TV. The important thing to remember about the unconscious limitation is that it doesn't understand complicated patterns, except for the ones that it's learned. In this way, the unconscious motive is razor accurate, super surprisingly perfect at this. It will never steer you wrong for satisfaction. When it comes to needs, the unconscious has got you, because it is you. But when it comes to comprehending the big picture, it has a tendency to miss the bus. That's a very literal way to put it. If you've been verbally told that the bus will arrive at 9:30 a.m., your habit drive says, we should probably rest quite a bit. I'm not sure how we should do this. Conscious mind, I love your input, but if you're going to leave it to me, we'll just do this about the same we always do it. The conscious mind needs to look at the data and step in and establish a new pattern. Once a new pattern is established, the unconscious says, oh, I see how you're doing this. Okay, I got you now. To this end, for example, getting on a bus to go to work means being at a specific location at a specific time. The habit drive can't help you with that until it experiences it. The first time has to be done right by the conscious mind, which means there can be situational defects and complex complication type things that can happen that the unconscious will fail to recognize and account for. This is how people end up in trouble in their life. Now, as it turns out, I've been in this situation before. So my unconscious mind is bugging me. The first time it didn't, but this time it's like, hey, hombre, you remember what happened the last time we didn't get a job for like 3 years? I don't want to go back to that place. That was not a good lifestyle. That sucked pretty hard. What we want to do actually is build a new pattern set right now. Please get on that. I need a new pattern. This is your purview. You're supposed to make the patterns. I just run them. You got to figure out what we're going to do because I don't like the look of that horizon. So when you break a pattern like job, first your body has to unclench. Like, okay, we've been doing this for so long. I'm always up at this particular time, 6 a.m., dressed by 7:20, out the door by 7:30. Boom, 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 clockwork, clockwork, clockwork. Okay, we don't have to go to work today. We'll mostly get up around 7 something. Maybe we don't need to be dressed yet. And then after a few days, all those pressures, all those habit chemicals gradually let off until you're up at 3 a.m. and you're waking up at noon. You're like, all right, I think I'm just about decompressed here. I don't have any of my old habits active. Now we are ready to build new ones. If you try to just run your old habits into a new situation, you end up in a situation very similar. Now, if I was looking to stay with the job that I was doing, I would have done that. I would have just run my old habit system, got up at 6, got dressed, ready to go by 7:20. By 7:30, I would be out the door looking for the job that I had in a different place. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is to take a big step back and reposition my life, decide what I'm going to do. To this end, I've been thinking about it consciously for a long time, but also allowing my habit drive to decompress and to move away from this system. Take a long, deep look at what we actually need as a person, and to carefully consider my next move. And now that I'm in that position, I feel like I'm just about ready to start moving forward again. Habit is such a long procedure. It can remember things from years ago, things it only did once or twice. So, when Christmas rolls around, it's like, oh, we don't want to do anything this week. There's going to be stuff happening, so we shouldn't make plans. We don't want to try to eat too much food now, because I recognize this. Last year around this time, we were made to eat at a huge banquet. We will overeat for sure. Don't put anything in our stomachs. It's okay if we're a little hungry. It will be resolved all too soon. We don't want to do anything around New Year's. It's going to be loud at night. Noise is going to last well up to 11. Dogs are going to be barking. Don't want to do it. Just relax. So yeah, I have been doing this specific behavior of streaming because the body remembers. This is one of the ways that I can gain trickle emotions. It's emotional connection with other people, even though there's no one there. It's not really effective, but it's a little effective. It's better than nothing. We don't want to have this decision motivated by our need for emotional connection. It needs to have other motives be the core instead. Because employment can, but doesn't have to be, a major source of emotional connection. We always get a little bit of emotional connection from employment, from our bosses and coworkers. For some of us, it's a major source. It was for the last job. I want to move away from that. Instead, I have a very specific outline. My last job did not make enough money, so living is really rather difficult. To remove this difficulty from my life, I have a conscious long-term plan and a minimum expected salary. I have to stay on target and find a task that will successfully give me this much money for the long-term plan's sake. Long-term planning is player one's job. It's my job to make these decisions, but to be able to clearly and effectively make them without the influence of habit, I have to back habit off. I have to allow habit to let go of all of its previous preconceptions, which takes time, because habit is a busy boy. After backing habit off for 1 week to unclench and a couple of weeks to cleanse out, we are now ready once more to do something new. As to what that new is, I'm not completely certain. And honestly, it's a very private decision. I'm working on it, is all I can say. I can also say that streaming, as far as habits go, has proven to be pretty ineffective for some of my motives. I don't feel more important. No one cares. I don't feel too accomplished. I have many, many video game streams. Completing them and uploading them gives me a sense of achievement, but nothing else. No one else seems to notice or care. I just do things at my own pace. There's no community here for me. I do appreciate Tolinar 1293 stopping by and saying hello this morning. Thank you. But really, this is more a period of self-reflection for me. Streaming can be healthy, but provides very specific pointed things. I have a lot of big dreams, a lot of possibilities that I have definitely considered. And I don't like to limit myself. I like to do everything, but I can't make money from everything at the same time. When it comes to jobs, you have to be specific. You have to focus. You have to make choices. And these choices should be conscious ones. You should make choices based on your abilities, based on your needs, based on the needs of your community. Based on your prior successes and failures. You have to find a job you enjoy doing. You have to find a job that suits your talents. You have to find something humanity really needs done. And you have to find something that you can get paid to do. So, having prepared thoroughly and earnestly, it is time to begin a work search. I have a couple of fresh leads. But the first start of any work search is understanding who is searching for work. Who am I? Well, I think I might need a little bit of cleanup. Fortunately, I have been removing sequentially various other side needs, interferences, getting them out of the way. I don't want to be thinking too hard about hygiene or organization while I'm trying to decide what to do. I don't want to have problems or obstacles blocking my career path. I need to be my best self so I can convince other people that I'm worth their time, money, and energy. And I don't want to be motivated by hobbies or side interests any more than necessary. I want to be razor focused on my goals this time. In particular, the last time I sought work, I chose because I was escaping a bad situation, and so I sought comfort. What's up, cat? What's up, Buttercup? Hello. You want out? There you go. He wants attention. Doesn't want out. It's like, what do you mean? Don't walk away. I'm not done, cat. Sorry. Cat's like, that's not what I want. Sorry, cat. Last time, I moved away from a well-paying job that was difficult and unpleasant and unhealthy for me on many levels because the drawbacks weren't worth the merits. My body was getting clogged with flour. People were awful and mean to me. I was physically getting overtaxed, which wasn't terrible, but I wasn't getting paid for all that extra labor I was putting in efficiently. So I was coming up pretty hard negative. This last time, the task that I was very, very comfortable doing wasn't making me enough money. My life was very slowly grinding away to dust. On top of that, there were more emotional concerns with people. People tend to be one of the major reasons why I struggle to find the right job. It means almost more than finding the right job. I must find the right people. People who are capable of understanding me for who I am. This could be a more crucial factor than what I do, who I do it with. I'm glad I've made this discovery. It might make my task much, much easier. Being consciously aware of something is not the same as being unconsciously aware of it. The unconscious mind knows all this balanced stuff. The conscious mind has its own set of understanding, its own expectations and regulations. To this end, the conscious mind can miss out on things that are obvious to the unconscious. The unconscious is like, of course we care about need number 3, it's very important. We don't get on with everyone equally well. Some people agree with everybody. They're cool. We have a pointed personality. Some people don't like us very much. That's normal for us. That's our normal habit. That's how things are. We've come to accept it. I know how this goes. But we can't pretend it's not part of our reality. We have to acknowledge it and work around it and through it every single day. Because if we fail to, it bites us in the ass every time consistently. We don't have any choice but to deal with it. So let's deal with it. In this way, my unconscious mind is fully aware and capable of managing. But if my conscience doesn't respect it, I could end up making a choice that could be difficult in the long run. More than what I do, I have to carefully think about who I'm doing it with. people I engage with may be much more important than the specific task I choose. Because as it turns out, I am an extremely capable person. I'm strong, balanced, fast, clever. With decent mechanical understandings, as well as the ability to learn complex concepts, I'm a problem solver with broad horizons, excellent linguistic skills, strong communication abilities. Indeed, my central weakness is my strange personality. Not everybody can live next to a genius. Not everyone can deal with the complexity of who I am. And while I would very much like to have my social needs met again, I think it's going to have to go on the back burner. And instead of seeing the social situation as an opportunity to connect with other people, I need to view my social situation as an obstacle for now. I need to find other people who are capable of dealing with me. I need to seek minimum conflict, find the right people to be around, and sufficient money. These are the primary factors for this job search. It took me a while to see it, but now I'm rocked on. Thank you for listening. We are now going to conclude the stream to go watch the Apothecary Diaries. Apothecary, Perry. Have fun.